More now on the indications that all children held in detention on Nauru will be transferred by the end of the year. With me in the studio is Professor George Newhouse, the Principal Solicitor of the National Justice Project at Macquarie University. Hi George, thanks so much for coming in. So 12 children been announced that have come off Nauru in recent days. 40 more are to go by the end of the year. What's your reaction to the news?
Well, it's welcome news. These are very sick children. We've been involved in having about 50 children removed from Nauru already. You've heard recently of another 12. There's about 120 that have come off Nauru in the last 18 months since we've been working on this. But it's taken court hearings and a groundswell from the community to get the government to act to get these kids off Nauru.
So they say the rest of the children will be off by the end of the year. Are you happy with that timeline?
Well, let's hope. It's not an official policy. The government aren't committed to it. And there are still children that need urgent medical evacuation. So whilst it sounds good in theory, the devil will be in the detail, and we may still need to go to court to get children medevaced if there's an emergency.
What state are the most fragile of those children in, and how many roughly are there of them?
Well, as I said, we've had about 50 removed already, and they've been in very precarious positions. We've had children who were taken straight from the airport to intensive care units because they were about to suffer organ failure. We've had children who've been taken directly from the airport to mental health facilities. And I've seen some of these children myself with matchstick arms and legs because they haven't been eating. Imagery that you've seen in war. I mean, it's absolutely shocking to see the state of these children, and I welcome the fact that the government are committing to removing them. But remember, there are still adults on Nauru and Manus.
And these children who've been taken off already, and indeed those who will be taken off, do they tend to be alone, or are they in the camps with their parents, and inevitably that will mean splitting the families up?
That's a very good point. They're generally with families. And the government now are generally taking families with the children because they know that to separate them actually creates more trauma. But there are still some families who've been separated by the government, and that's an issue that does need to be addressed. Even though the government's saying these children will be off the island by the end of the year, what happens to those families that are separated?
You say a lot of the kids go straight to hospital once they've been treated and leave hospital. Where do they go?
Well, that's it's a bit unclear. Some go into community detention. Some are still detained in immigration detention inside fenced detention. We fight very vigorously to have them in the least restrictive care, but it creates a lot of uncertainty and prolongs the illnesses for the children when they don't know what their future will bring.
What degree of cooperation is there between organisations like yours and the government in determining the order and the timing of who gets out?
We have a very civil relationship with the government solicitors, and they act extremely professionally. We've been very successful in getting a number of children off without the need to go to court, but sometimes there's a delay, and in those situations we are forced to go before a judge to get orders.
So if the battle to get the kids off the island is now over, your attention turns to the adults?
Yes, and their condition is pretty miserable. If you look at what's going on Manus and Nauru, the men and women there are in a parlous state. They've been there for 5 years, and I really think the government needs to do something about them as well as the children. And they've been there for 5 years or more, some of them. It's time to, if the government won't bring them to Australia, at least take them to New Zealand, Canada, the United States.
Professor George Newhouse, thank you.
Thank you.